Hello, welcome to the Damian and Devlin show. This is our review of Boyhood, the 2014 film directed by Richard Linklater and starring L.R. Coltrane, Patricia Arquette, Lorelei Linklater, and Ethan Hawke. Now, for those who don't know, this was a big hit critical movie. It also did pretty good financially, even though this movie didn't get a big box office release. It was actually released in small amounts, and just word of mouth of this film made it become a big film. It was up for Academy Awards, it was up for the Golden Globe. In fact, it won the Best Picture for Golden Globes, and I think Patricia Arquette won pretty much every award she was up for. And it's an interesting movie because basically it follows the life of a family, particularly the son, and follows his life from the ages of 6 to 18. Now, in most cases, for those of you who don't know the twist in this movie, in most cases you recast the actor as they were growing up, or they'd be awkwardly playing weird ages. But Richard Linklater, who's always been a groundbreaking director, came up with an idea, and in 2002 he just started filming about a month's worth of stuff for 12 years. So all the characters, including the boy, L.R. Coltrane, grows right before your eyes. This is a 2-hour and 45-minute movie, and you literally see a 6-year-old boy go through adolescence until he's a young man making his way to college. It's a really unusual idea, and it's totally groundbreaking, and for that it was critically acclaimed, and a lot of people absolutely loved it. And if you think about it, whether you love or hate this movie, you have to give this movie credit for taking a huge chance, because they literally took this family, and they even had an idea of where the screenplay was going, but the screenplay was also, every year when they got together, Richard Linklater talked to all the actors, including the kids, and got an idea of where they were in their lives to get inspiration for each passing year. It's so well done. It's very clever. They use pop culture references. They use music. Never do you see the date. Like, you never see this is 2003, this is 2004, which I have to commend him on. They find creative ways, and suddenly just watch a scene and, oh, the boy and the sister have grown up again. A little harder to tell on the adults. The mother has various hairstyles, which people do. But when you see the kid, you start seeing the growth spurts and stuff, and the awkwardness even of adolescence. So this was a groundbreaking idea. He got really a lot of acclaim. A lot of people liked it, and I had seen it once before. Damian actually picked this movie because he had heard about it, but tonight was your first night checking it out, and what are your initial thoughts on Boyhood?
I was one of those people that heard about it through word of mouth. I think it was actually you that told me about it, to be quite honest. And just the thought of taking a 6-year-old boy and filming his, I didn't know he had a sister before, I just watched it now, but just taking his life and literally filming it over the course of however many years it took to him getting to college, it really intrigued me, and I wanted to see how it played out. Now, Ethan Hawke is in this movie, and I am a big fan of Ethan Hawke. Training Day is in my top 50, and that's the first movie I ever saw him in, and he does fantastic in it. So that also endeared me to checking out this movie, and I'm really glad that I did, because like Devlin has just stated, this sort of thing has never really been done before, and since it has come out, nothing like this has ever been attempted, to my knowledge. And, you know, it just shows the dedication of not only the cast, willing to come back every single time, but also the director of having this vision of, this is what I want to do. And it proves itself with the movie. I literally feel like I'm watching this boy grow. I'll get into it more when I talk about my positives and negatives of the movie, but it truly is a remarkable, groundbreaking experience that you have to experience for yourself.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of that comes close to this was there was a PBS show in the, I want to say the 70s or 80s, that I can't remember the name of it, but it followed a family, and every couple of years they would do like these hour specials or 2-hour specials, and you'd see the family grow. But nobody's ever attempted this, and there's so many ways this could have gone wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so many ways. But just think, to dedicate 12 years of your life, like, it's unbelievable. All these people had to be committed to doing this. Like, there's no outs. Like, if suddenly, the kid decided, I don't want to do this anymore, you lost a movie here. So, now there has been some, like, as I said, it won the Golden Globe for Best Picture, and a lot of people thought it would go on to win the Oscar, but then there was some backlash for this movie because a lot of people thought that it was a good movie, but more people were considering it great because of what it did, and said that actually the story is just kind of okay, but more people are lavishing it because it's got like a twist to it. And so I think at that point the Academy said, well, we can't follow the Golden Globes, which, they're very political like that, and said, I forgot who they gave it to, but Boyhood wound up getting all these nominations at the Oscar and only winning one for, as I said, I think Patricia Arquette won every critics award, everything. I don't know. It was very interesting to see. But anyhow, it was interesting to go back to this movie because I really didn't remember a lot. I remember I enjoyed it on first watching, and so I'm glad you suggested this because it is a little different than what we see, and that's one thing we want to do here is to change it up now and again. So your positives about Boyhood?
Well, I have to talk about the main positive, obviously, of taking that journey, that 12-year journey of taking, what's his name, the little boy, what's his name?
The actor?
Yeah.
Eller Coltrane.
I could just look at the box.
No, I'm here.
Eller Coltrane. Just the fact that, you're seeing this kid grow. I said to him at one point in the movie, I think we were like 2 hours into it at this point, I was like, it's weird that an hour and a half ago I saw this 6-year-old kid and now I'm seeing this 16-year-old kid. Like, and it's the same person. It's weird because it's never really happened before. I mean, you look at shows like The Walking Dead, every year Carl gets older, and that's just a natural thing. It's episode upon episode upon episode after week after week after week, and it's a TV show. It's expected to go for a long period of time, but a movie that lasts 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours maximum, to span 12 years is truly groundbreaking, so that is definitely a positive for me. Another positive I had, I made reference to this many times throughout our watching it, I love the soundtrack. Starts with Yellow by Coldplay, and it only gets better from there. The soundtrack ties into but just like the pop culture references.
The timeline.
The timeline. Yeah. It ties into that because I wasn't the same age as the kid, like the boy, but I was about the same age as his sister, who's about 2 years older than he is. So literally, it was like rewatching my childhood. Like, from the songs that were popular at the time, there was times where like he's playing with a Game Boy Advance, Xbox, and it just progresses to the point where they get their first iPod Touches, so on. That's what happened with me. Like, literally, I'm watching my own childhood. Like, didn't start off with a lot of technology. I was outside playing because we were basically the last generation that played outside before technology took over. And then the technology slowly started to creep in there, and that's what you see them do primarily and so forth. So it felt like I was watching my own childhood. So I have to give my hats off to that. Now, you made mention to the fact that people thought the story was okay, and I will agree with them at a certain level, and I'll talk about that more on my negatives, but I do have to give like a round of applause to just the depth of the script in some areas. Like, there are certain sections, literally, I felt my heart tightening in my chest because not only was the performance by the actors another positive, it's just so thrilling and gripping, but I felt for the characters as well because of my own personal experiences. Now, I know obviously not everybody watching this movie can relate to that sort of thing, and I will get to that in a little bit, but it had like a vice grip on my heart at some points, and I'm just like, holy cow, this is hitting home at some points because it's just so
and I'm glad that you found things like that. It's sad. I'll make this one point, and I might be wrong on this, but the generation like that you identified with a lot of this probably wouldn't be interested in a movie like this. Like, offhand, Because I just don't think it would be the kind of movie they go to now. There's always differences in it and stuff like that, but I just can't see young people saying, "Hey, we should watch Boyhood," when they could watch like a comedy or an action film.
Yeah.
And it's too bad that like it was maybe like older people that didn't relate with a lot of this that actually bonded with this film. But I'm glad you did, because I'm not saying there aren't that wouldn't bond. I'm just saying it's sad that this wasn't more of a multi-generational hit.
That's true. Like, throughout the movie, I was keeping him, okay, this is about 2002. Okay, we're at 2005 now. Because I could tell just by, like, the music that was playing, as well as, like, the technology they had in their hands.
Really incredible ways how they did it. Like,
Absolutely.
even subtle. Like, they didn't just play a song to say, this is a new year.
No.
They did it, like you said, through technology. They did it through pop culture. Harry Potter was mentioned, like, the going to get the book.
Yeah.
There's small little references in the thing, like, people are starting to read the Twilight books. So they used different, unique ways to tell you what year we're in.
You know, just like you made mention to it, just you're watching a scene and then suddenly like somebody goes up the stairs and then you think it's the next day and you see them like come down for breakfast, but they're a year older. Like, it's just so easy and it feels natural. And I liked the fact, I'll agree with you, I applaud not having the year there, because it would take away from the brilliance of having to, okay, he's got an iPhone 4, it's got to be around this year. Like, it would have taken that brilliance away, so I have to give it that. I made brief reference to the performance by the actors. Now, yes, you're taking a huge chance when you say, okay, we're going to take this 6-year-old boy and this 8-year-old girl, and we're going to make this film over the next 12 years. Because you actually said this, so I'm taking his words at this point. We don't know if these kids are going to turn out to be good actors. We don't know if they're going to, and let's be face it, we don't know if any of these actors are going to die over the next 12 years.
Yeah, I never even took that in, but you're right.
We don't know if they're going to have something happen to them. I mean, accidents happen every day. They might not die, but maybe one of them contracts like a disease or gets cancer or maybe has a limb or a finger cut off. You never know, because they're still living their lives while filming this movie like a month out of every single year. So absolutely wonderful performance by the cast, because even though these kids started at 6 and 8, up to 18, 20 for the sister, still, I think, fantastic performances by both of them. They felt like real people, especially the boy who focuses on Mason. He feels like a teenager. He's awkward. He's got that like monotonous tone in his voice when he gets older that all teenagers have, and yeah, he feels like his personal problems are like the end of the world. And again, I was relating to him because I went through similar situations as he did as a teenager and thinking, oh my gosh, my life is over, this is it. And also having that existential crisis, like, what am I going to do with my life? So I related to this movie. The performances by everybody were great. Soundtrack, direction, script, for the most part. I'll touch on that in a second. And then also just the whole scheme of it. Absolutely brilliant.
Now, I said that Richard Linklater is groundbreaking. Now, I have not seen his other movies, but I want to. He did a trilogy of films. They weren't going to be a trilogy, but his first movie did so well, and Ethan Hawke is one of the leads in that. It's called Before Sunrise, and it became a big cult classic. And basically, it was just two people who met as strangers and had like a talking romance over the course of a night. And the whole movie is just them getting to know one another. And I have heard it's actually amazing. It's not for everybody, but they say if you're a movie fan, you got to see it. And of course, it eventually led to two other movies which reunited those two characters in the thing. And I'd love to see them because I love Boyhood, and this reminded me so much. I really enjoyed this movie. So I'm going to give my first shout out to Richard Linklater, who comes up with these fascinating ideas. Even he said when he started Boyhood, he knew that Before Sunrise was an interesting idea. Now, it had been done before where it's just two people talking. There was a movie called My Dinner with Andre that did it. And if you get two characters that are just engrossing, you don't need a big action-packed plot or anything. It's just, you're just mesmerized. But he even said he didn't think he'd be a part of that again. But when he came up with the idea with Boyhood, he said if he could nail this, he knew it was special, and it is. As I said, whether you love it or hate it, you have to give him a shout out for the fact that he pulled something like this off, and I really do think he did succeed. The actors are good. I do like all the actors in this movie. We'll get to one that I had some problems with, but they did fix it.
I'm curious to know whether it's the same one I have.
Yeah, well, you might give it as a negative too. And I did like the boy. You know, you need someone. I think he was awkward, and it works. I will get to a negative with him later, but I still think he comes off as a really interesting character watch, and he's somebody you'd want to befriend or just mentor or anything. So he's got a likability, so that's good. Patricia Arquette got a lot of praise for this, and she's wonderful in this movie. Like, they don't candy coat this mom. She makes mistakes, and you know, the kids know she makes the mistakes, and she keeps making the same mistakes, but they never try to Hollywood her up. But I do want to give a shout out, because Ethan Hawke doesn't get enough love, and his performance is so real. He comes off almost as he's this charming dad. You know he's a deadbeat dad, but you can always see that when he's with the kids, he tries to make it memorable for them. And he's not afraid to like talk straight with them and just be real with them. And he never tries to say, hey, I'm an amazing dad. He knows that he should have been there for them more. And it's a wonderful performance, and I just don't think he gets enough love for it. And so I'm going to give him a shout out. And as I said, there's lots of amazing things in this movie. Those are my solid positives. You know, and if you nail acting and directing, and, you know, even the story I liked. I didn't love the story, but I liked it because I was still engaged to it. But I will talk a little bit, because I do have some negatives as I lose my voice a bit. And your negatives.
So, one big negative I have about this is, while I think it was great and breathtaking and groundbreaking and everything like that, I wish we could have spent more time learning about the characters a little bit more, because we only see them for brief periods, of course, over this 12-year period. I wish we could have spent more time in certain situations to see, like, let's develop the character a little bit more. Like, yes, I get to know the character very well, but it's kind of like if I were a distant relative of them, like seeing them once a year. Like, yeah, I know what they're up to, I know what their likes are, their aspirations, but I don't know the real character. I don't know who they really are. And that, it kind of bothered me that I didn't get to know Mason. I didn't get to know his mom. I didn't get to know his sister in that intimate kind of way that you do when watching characters in movies. Well, good movies anyways. Some characters just fall flat. But I feel there could have been a lot more. Obviously, I know, because this movie could have gone on forever.
Yeah, it is a long movie, so if you're going to sit down and watch it, it's 2 hours and 45 minutes. So you need to invest some time in it.
Definitely. And so, like, as much as I would have liked to see more and to have them fleshed out as characters a little bit better, I get why we couldn't, because the movie's long enough as it is. Now, there's a specific character in the movie that I felt was just completely unnecessary, and that was Mason's mom, so Patricia Arquette's character, her second husband. I felt he was just thrown in there. The veteran turned corrections officer.
Yeah, you only get like 3 scenes with him.
And you know, he starts off as this nice, likable guy, and then like they throw a weird scene in there where you think, oh, here he comes, he's going to be a little bit of an ass, but he's fine. And then it turns out, like, something happens, and then I'm just like, I don't care about this guy. Like, they've already done this. They've beaten this kind of story to death already. While it's nice, it shows, like, yes, the mom is making these mistakes over and over and over again. He was just, like, kind of an afterthought, and I felt it could have been as impactful of a storyline with regards to abusive relationships without him. So that's the negative of the character. Is it the same character you're thinking of?
No, I have another one.
All right, well, I'll let you touch on yours. As well, it's just, most of it does tie in the fact that, like, we don't get to see these characters develop as much. Like, we know Mason, we know Mason's dad, we know his sister, we know his mom, and then there are occasional side characters that show up, and we only see them in like maybe once. And they're made to feel important, like, oh, you should know this person. Oh, Mason hangs out with this girl all the time. They're friends in class. Oh, there's a blossoming romance going on here. But you see it briefly, and then it's gone. So I kind of felt wasted. What I mean by that is, like, I'm invested. I'm like, oh, okay, Mason had his head shaved, and he feels like he's ugly to the rest of the class, and then he gets a note from a girl saying that she thinks that he has a nice haircut, and they kind of make eye contact and they smile at each other. I was like, that's so cute. I want to see their friendship develop. I never see that girl again, and she's never referenced. The same name shows up in a girl later. I'm like, oh, are they tying it back together, like they're meeting again after all these years, like in college now? No, different girl. So just moments like that bring it a little bit down for me. And of course, I know why we can't do that, because of the grand scale of this movie, but it still would have been nice. Like, I don't personally have 7 hours to spare to watch all of that, nor would I probably want to, but it would have been nice.
You made a really good point, and I want to call it out because it was so good. Like, you do almost feel like a relative, like an uncle or something that visits these people, so you only get to see them. Like, oh, you've grown so much and stuff. And then, you meet, new husbands or new girlfriends and stuff, and then they're gone. Oh, yeah, I think I heard something in an email your mom wrote me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a great point. I never saw it like that, but that is a wonderful point. I think maybe if he did it like in shorter spans and did like a trilogy, maybe that would have worked. You get a little bit more, like maybe take him to 10 and then show a little bit of his teen years and then his college years. Might have worked, but of course that would all depend if people bought it, the first one. If they didn't, it wouldn't be gone. But
exactly.
Yeah, I won't go too much into it because I did have a problem with that. They jump over big sections sometimes, and sometimes when you want to see a story, it doesn't pan out and stuff like that. The character I was talking to, and he's not a horrible character, but his first scene takes me out of the movie so much, is when he gets his first job washing dishes.
Oh, gosh.
The boss comes in, and he's almost a cartoon character, and since everything else is kind of grounded in reality, it almost comes off like he's like this actor, like, I'm going to show them acting. But then he's got a couple of little scenes, like he actually has a sweet scene at like a graduation party where I don't know if the director told him, level it off. It was a year or two later. But I thought he came on a little strong, and it actually took me out of the movie because everybody else seems like, oh, that's somebody I would meet. Oh, that's somebody I know. Yeah. And it was perfect. But I do think the jumps are kind of unsettling, and there were moments where I kind of wanted to see that scene, and again, there's an obvious reason, because we can't watch a 7-hour movie, and I don't think this would work as a TV show because the jumps would be kind of weird. I don't know if there's an answer for it, but it is jarring. It doesn't lose you, but it just, you kind of want to know more. So my only other problem, and you're probably going to rag me out on this one, but as much as I liked Eller Coltrane's performance, and it's based on reality, so his realism as a character is there. There were many times that only a few scenes that I felt he really connected with characters. There's beautiful scenes where he talks with his dad, and I know they were going for realism, and I don't want too much Hollywood in this, but they had opportunities to deal with some bigger issues here, because a lot of young people deal with anxieties now. But there was times where big things were happening in Mason's life, and I didn't feel he ever connected with the family. And yes, it's based on reality. I get that.
I'll agree with you. I want to actually add to your point. I felt he kind of just disconnected too much. For example, when the first signs of abusiveness happened with his mom, he kind of just...
Yeah, that's a big one.
Whatever. And that's kind of the attitude that he has throughout the entire movie. Is just, whatever. He has teen angst when he shouldn't have teen angst. And maybe it's just who he is as a person. This ties into the whole we're taking a risk on whether or not this kid's going to be a good actor. Don't get me wrong. I feel he is a good actor. He felt very real. But that might just be who Eller Colton is as a person. He could be a detached person.
But that's also the chance that they could make Mason a different person.
They could, yeah.
I think any kid who sees their mother in that distress, as in the abuse at one part, I think there would have been more of an emotional response. Even when he gets something thrown at him,
he just sits there.
He just takes it. And again, a little bit based on reality, but we had a chance to show something a little more. Another scene, and again, this is a real scene because I have been in situations, and I won't get into details, but I know a couple young people, and this scene played out exactly the same way. So I understand it was real, but to me, this is the time they could have pushed the story a bit. There's literally a scene where his mother has a breakdown, and she starts crying.
The very end, right?
Close to the end.
Yes.
And he doesn't comfort her.
Nope.
Now, I have broken down in front of some young people, and I have had the same situation. They don't comfort you. But here is a chance that we can actually learn from the movies. He actually doesn't even go over and put his hand on her shoulder or anything. He tries to use words, but it doesn't really work. And so there's his mom crying, telling him this is the worst day of her life. And he's always across the room. And you're like, go to her. And then the scene cuts. So, but you know what? Again, they went for realism because I've been in situations. I've been where I've broken down and, older people would come over, are you okay in that? So yes, they went for realism, but a little bit of Hollywood wouldn't have hurt there, Why not teach people like, wow, you could be better than this? My last negative is I would have actually, and I can't go into details, so if you see me on the street and say, I just saw Boyhood, can we talk about it now? By all means, do it. And Damian doesn't know even what I'm going to say. I would have actually cut the last 10 minutes out of this movie. There is a perfect scene that they should have ended it on, and then they take it 10 minutes too far. And I know why they did it, but I have a real personal problem with it, and I'm not going to go into it because it'll spoil the movie. And this is a journey. I think if you like dramas and character analysis movies, this is definitely one to check out. So I'm not going to ruin it. But there's a beautiful place they could have edited this movie, and it would have been awesome. More awesome. But because they let it run for 10 minutes, I have personal reasons why I don't think it should have ran. But yeah, so if you see me on the street and you've seen the movie and you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. But I'm not going to spoil this movie because I like the movie too much to, and even if it's a movie I hate, I don't spoil movies. I try not to at least.
We couldn't help it.
So that's my negatives for the film.
Yeah, fair enough. Thinking about it and just as much as I did enjoy it, like it's 2 hours 45 minutes. We've said that a lot. It never really made me go, is this over yet?
No, I'll agree with that. Yeah,
I wanted to. I was curious. I was like, how's this kid gonna look when he gets to 18? How's his sister gonna look when she gets to this age, and so on? And I found myself attached, and I was along for the ride, and I really did enjoy it. So. Personally, for me, I'm giving this movie 4 out of 5 for me. One thing I have to say is I doubt it's going to happen, but Richard Linklater, I'd like to see manhood. He's grown up a little bit now. Why don't we see him till he gets to middle age, and then there's a real movie. I'm good on that.
Yeah, I knew you would because you hate old things. But anyhow, I'm going to give this movie a 3.5. I like the movie a lot.
Is this the first movie I've rated higher than you?
No, I think
no.
I've had some movies that were Matrix.
Okay, Matrix. Yeah, I'll never forget the Matrix tantrum.
When I first watched this movie, I probably would have gave it a 4. And when I went into this movie before I saw it again, I thought I might see. I think it's going to be 4. But when I see it again, I did not get bored at any moment. Even though I seen it, I still was engrossed. But I'm going to give it a 3.5 because I think the jumps do bother me a bit, and I think we could have used moments to not necessarily just follow the character and make him a little more interacting with other characters. Because when he does connect, like some beautiful scenes, there's a scene with Ethan Hawke and him in a club that they're going to see his friend play. They have a wonderful talk about life, and they are connecting.
Yes.
And there's even a scene where he's with a girl and they talk, and it's a beautiful scene. They connect. It's just there's times he doesn't connect with the characters, and that's a big problem with me.
Maybe he just doesn't love his mom.
Maybe he doesn't,
love his mom.
But
maybe he secretly blames her for everything.
It could be. But you know what? Showing that more would have been better too.
Yeah, fair.
To just go and say, I think he didn't like his mom, or I think he cared about his mom. I think that's on the fence, and I want a little more when I watch a movie.
I did think of one more negative before we go. There's a scene at the end of the movie where they're all sitting down, the mom, the sister, and then Mason, the boy. They're sitting down as a final family dinner at a restaurant before they all go their separate ways. And I think this is kind of a plot hole here, because again, it's really open to interpretation. But the sister's like, oh, I'm not going to eat. I'm not feeling all that well. And I'm like, oh, it's this. I know it's this. And then Mason says the same thing as me in the movie, and I'm like, there we go, confirmed. That's it. And then she just kind of goes on a story about, oh, no, that's not it. And then it's just confusing to me, because is it or isn't it? And then it's never touched on.
It is. She says she's hungover.
Yeah, but is she lying? Is she not lying?
Since it was never played in the movie and we never see what happens,
that was
we
a
just
negative
assume.
to me. Yeah. That was a negative to me, because I would have liked to know that fact at the very least. So there are plot holes aplenty in this movie. So if you're okay with getting over that and just seeing it for the appeal, definitely check it out. But thank you so much for coming on this adventure with us. Before we let you go, July is all about you. Now, you've seen us on our journey from when we were just wee little lads back last July with our very first couple of movie reviews and getting our feet.
And hopefully we will have a 12-year run, and you can
hopefully.
See, well, you'll look still better than I will with it.
You
12 years.
Fine. You look fine. But, we've come a long way on this journey, and we want to make July all about you, to thank you, because you have made it so wonderful for us. Now, we are the kind of people that, even if nobody really watched this show, we'd still probably do it because we enjoy doing it. But the fact that people are actually taking the time to tune in, that means a lot to us. So July is all about you. We're going to get you guys to give us suggestions on what we actually review. So get those comments, get those suggestions out there. We've already got several already, and they're all fantastic, so keep them coming. Tell them about the Q&A.
Yeah, we also want to do a Q&A. And where we take your questions and we answer them.
So I specifically remember, I don't do abbreviations. I'm old-fashioned. It's question and answers. And here you are saying Q&A.
I'm trying to be hip and with it.
Saying Q&A is hip.
So send us your questions. They can be movie-related. They can be personal. We will answer pretty much anything, unless it's really personal, because then we'd have to charge you for it, because... honestly. We need a lot more subscribers before I answer anything about what kind of underwear I wear, or worse. Okay?
I don't think anybody's going to be asking that question anymore.
Well, I can dream. Anyhow, on that note, send in your questions, and we are going to do a special one, and we are going to answer those questions and have a lot of fun with it too.
Absolutely.
So please challenge us with the questions.
Well, thanks so much. As always, we do appreciate having you here with us. Like, comment, and subscribe so that you're always in the know and always figuring out, what are we doing? What are we watching next? We always love having you with us. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time. Being a kid is great. It's just so wonderful all the time.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Being an adult is better.